Hi guys, welcome back. So today's video is going to be all about sleep because over the past couple years, I've been putting so much energy and attention and researching all things sleep because I was really struggling with it. I am not a sleep expert, but I am a woman who is 39 who has been struggling with cortisol and hormones and all the things, and I knew how important sleep was to improve a lot of those, and my sleep was horrible. So I took so much time looking into what are the different things that I can try out to improve my sleep so I could then see improvements in the other areas. So what I wanted to do was put together a video of what things helped me, what things I needed to look into, and also what are some of the just foundational pieces that we need to kind of have in order before we consider adding other things when it comes to improving our sleep. If you're new here, my name's Elena. I'm a certified health and life coach, and my mission is to help everyone see that we can work towards our goals. We have so much power, we have so much control in our lives regardless of the situations or the circumstances that we're facing. If we have commitment, we're willing to do the work, we're willing to be patient, we can get where we want to be. And I am in the middle of a health journey right now where I was on a health journey a while ago, which is when I started my YouTube channel and all of my social media pages. And I was 10 years ago, I was working on weight loss, and I was a binge eater, I was an emotional eater, I had all these other challenges with being consistent, and I figured all of that out. And I ended up losing 40 pounds, keeping it off for almost 10 years. And then a couple of years ago, my hormones started to just kind of change a little bit. My cortisol started to go up, and now I found myself kind of on another health journey. And I bring that up because it goes back to what I was saying before. Even though every single day I'm struggling with this right now, even though I'm doing all of the right things, I'm not seeing results. I know that if I stay committed, if I'm patient, if I'm willing to do the work, if I'm willing to pivot and change things up, that I will eventually get where I want to be. So that leads me to my video topic today, which is sleep. And I decided to do a video on this because people ask me all the time, because like I said, I do health coaching, and my family and friends, they know I've been in health for forever. People ask me all the time, how can I improve my sleep? How can I get my body back in a proper circadian rhythm? Sleep is so crucial to any health goal that you want to reach. And if you're a woman in your 30s or in your 40s, like I said, I'm 39, right around that age, likely you are dealing with some hormonal changes, some cortisol changes, some different things that are going on in your body. And sleep is such a crucial piece to improving those things. Now, what I was dealing with is, like I said, my progesterone was really low, my estrogen was high, my cortisol was really high, and every specialist that I was talking to was saying, okay, well, how's your sleep? You have to improve your sleep to be able to improve those other things. But my sleep was severely impacted from having the low progesterone and the high cortisol, so I couldn't sleep. So I was like, how am I supposed to figure this out? Because I need one thing for the other, and then the other thing isn't working to improve the other. So it was like this vicious cycle that I got in. So I kind of went back to the drawing board and the principles that I always think of. No matter what, like I said, we can figure it out. We just have to keep trying different things. We have to be committed and willing to just try out all the things. So that's kind of exactly where I ended up. So what I always say to people when it comes to anything, when it comes to health, when it comes to sleep, when it comes to anything we're working towards, there are usually foundational elements, healthy lifestyle elements that we want to make sure are kind of set up first. So we want to make sure we can go through and check all the boxes before we start adding the extra things. I feel like sometimes we want to go right towards the supplements or the powders or the what can I add in here to fix this thing. But a lot of times we really have to go back to the basics, to the foundational elements, and make sure those are in check before we start doing those things. So for me, my struggle was really, I struggled to fall asleep. So it was taking me literally 2 to 3 hours to fall asleep every night. So I would make sure that I put myself to bed around 10 o'clock, and then I would lay there. I would lay there for hours and then sometimes get up and just go do things because I was like, I literally can't sleep. It was like my body was, I guess, tired, but my brain wasn't, or the other way around. Maybe it was like my brain was tired, but my body wasn't. It was almost like I was just like, it's not time to sleep yet. I felt like my body was telling me it's just not time to sleep yet. But it was 10 p.m. at night or 11 p.m. at night. And I was like, no, I need sleep. I knew I needed it for all of these other things, which I feel like just compounded. And I felt worse and worse because I wasn't sleeping. So that was my one struggle. The second struggle was I would wake up between 1 and 3 a.m. regularly almost every single night. So it was like I couldn't fall asleep, and then I also couldn't stay asleep. And then, of course, you know what happens. You wake up in the morning, you feel like death. You're waking up early maybe to work out because you're trying to lose weight. And it just goes into this awful spiral that you feel like you can't get out of, but you can. You just have to do all the things I keep saying, just keep trying different things and see what ends up working for you. So here are the things that I want you to think about if you have an order before you're thinking about adding anything else. So I'm looking down at my computer because I have it here because I have my list. Number one, we want to make sure that our nutrition is in check, because what I mean by nutrition is, are you eating mainly whole, clean proteins, whole foods, unprocessed foods. Are your plates balanced? Do you have a combination of macronutrient groups, such as your proteins, your healthy fats, and then your complex carbohydrates, ideally with fiber? And if you're eating most of your meals and snacks this way, then we can check off that box. The reason that this is really important, we want to keep our blood sugar balanced. We don't want to be creating a lot of spikes and dips. And then we also don't want to be adding a lot of additional stress to our body and increasing our cortisol with our nutrition. The second thing is hydration. Are you hydrating yourself throughout the day? This doesn't need a whole lot of explanation. Typically, we want to go for at least half of our body weight in ounces in water. Again, if we aren't hydrating our body isn't able to function properly, and we are adding that additional stressor onto our body. The third thing I would say is caffeine intake. We've all heard this. Cutting your caffeine intake off about 6 to 8 hours before bed is something that is a really great practice to get into, and even minimizing or limiting or removing if you're really struggling with sleep and seeing if it makes a difference. So for me, a couple years ago, I actually did remove caffeinated coffee. I know a lot of you are listening and gasping, but I did it. I drink coffee for the flavor. So I actually still have decaf coffee in the morning, and then I have a matcha midway through the day. I actually removed that completely just to see if it made a difference, and it didn't. So I can still have my matcha like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock is kind of pushing it, but I don't go any later than that because it does have caffeine, but it also has L-theanine, which I feel like kind of helps balance that out. But that actually doesn't affect me. So I would play around with that, test it out. If you're having coffee or caffeine later in the day, whatever that is for you, I would definitely encourage moving that to earlier in the day or completely removing it. The next thing is sleeping in a cool, dark room. I actually, when I was business coaching for a company, we had someone come in from Whoop, which is one of the best sleep trackers in the world, or it was at the time. And they spoke to us about some of the most important things when it comes to getting quality, not just quantity sleep. And I'm talking about a lot of them today here, but that's one that he really focused on, is making sure that the room you're sleeping in isn't warm, that it's comfortable, that it's cool, and also that it's as dark as possible. They actually talked about a study that was done with, I believe, athletes, and they had a light that was like dime size shining on the foot of certain athletes and compared their sleep quality to other athletes that did not have this light, dime size, really tiny, and their sleep quality was significantly better. So don't be like my daughter, who sleeps with all sorts of lights in her room. She swears that she can't sleep without them, so I let it go because I just need to get her to sleep. But as adults, we have a lot more control over that, and try to make your room as cool and dark as possible. Cutting electronics off. That's another thing we have all heard, but it's really hard to do. It's one of those things that is simple, but not necessarily easy. It's more about building that habit. So for me, I go for like 30 minutes before bed. I start to like turn off at least my phone. I get off my laptop, I get off my phone. I start to go into my nighttime routine, which is something that I'll talk about in a minute. TVs, I don't keep them as much in that category because I've never really had as much of an issue with TV. Not as much as like if I have my laptop or my phone right in my face, that blue light right in our face. There is research that shows that that is a little bit more impactful than having a TV like across the room. So start as small as you need to, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. And I know the recommendation, I believe, is like 1 to 2 hours before bed, that we are having very minimal blue light. Another thing that I've done in my house is I have actually tried to have a lot of the dimmable lights around where I can, especially my room. So I can make the light more of a warm glow at night versus like that bright, very artificial light that we would be more used to during the day. Which leads me to my next point, is having some type of wind down routine before bed. A lot of times we're just going through the day. We're on our phone, we're yelling at our kids, we're driving here, we're doing this, we're eating, we're doing all the things. And like our body's like not in sleep mode. It is in high cortisol mode. It is in chronic stress mode. It is in getting all the things done mode. We have to decide on a time throughout our day that we're going to start letting our body know, signaling that we are winding down for bed. So checking if you have anything like that you're currently doing a consistent routine. The next thing is getting sun first thing in the morning, helping to reset your circadian rhythm. So whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's 20 minutes, getting out in the sun first thing in the morning. I have a puppy, so I automatically am outside every single day, which I also think has been really helpful for me in improving my sleep because I wasn't doing that before. But trying to get up if you can, if it works with your schedule, to get, that 5 to 20 minutes of sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning. The other thing is trying to have as consistent of a routine as you can as far as when you're waking up in the morning and when you're going to bed. And that just really helps to reset your circadian rhythm, which will help your body be ready for sleep when it's supposed to be. Stress relief or some type of stress relief practice. That is something I have had to be really intentional about because I am someone who's like, go. I always want to do the things that are going to be accomplishing the things. But for me, because my cortisol was very high, my sleep was horrible, I knew that I had to be really intentional with my stress release. So whatever that work relief practice, whatever that looks like for you, that can be journaling, that can be walking, trying trying to figure out how can I, some are stressors we can't reduce, but can I reduce any stressors? And then the ones that I can't, how can I manage my mind and my thinking and the way that I feel around them so I'm not in this place of chronic fight or flight? Exercise, movement throughout the day, it's overall good for our body, but it's also going to help your body be more tired at the end of the day so you're ready to go to sleep. Digestion and eating. We want to make sure that we're not eating any kind of heavy meal or very high sugar, very high processed carbohydrate meal before bed. We want our body to be focused on resting. We don't want our body to be focused on digesting like really hard to break down foods or anything that's inflammatory or stressful for our body, especially right before bed. We want to try to not make a habit of drinking alcohol right before bed regularly, or if you do, at least try to get some water in there, but try not to make that an every night thing. We want to minimize the processed foods and the sugars that we're having right before bed. And if you can, I'd like to try to give myself a window of 1 to 2 hours before I go to bed, before I eat. Now, if you're someone who deals with low blood sugar throughout the night, which at one point I found that I was, having a really balanced macronutrient snack, something with healthy fats, with protein, maybe a little bit of complex carbohydrates, could be helpful for you. But the key is having it small and not something that's really going to be heavy and your body's going to have to do a lot of work to digest when we want it to be going into rest mode. And then lastly, pay attention to what could potentially be keeping you up. When you're laying there at night, ask yourself, what is keeping me awake? Why am I not sleeping? Sometimes the answers surprise us. A lot of times people say that their mind is racing. They're thinking about all the things that they have to do the next day or the next week. Something that I found really helpful for that, if that is the challenge for you, get a notebook. I like to keep a notebook next to my bed. My daughter actually does this too because she struggles with anxiety and with sleeping. And I write out all of the things that are buzzing around in my head. That way I get them out of my head. I remove that mental clutter, and I can even write down, if it's helpful, if you really need to do this, when am I going to work on all those things? When am I going to go back to them? So then they're not just spinning in your brain like, I need to do this. Oh my God, I need to do that. I need to do this. And we're worried about losing them. So we keep circulating them because we have them out in a place that we know we're going to get back to them. So those are like the basics, kind of the foundational pieces that I would recommend checking into. Now, if you've already done that, you're like, check, check, check. I am doing all the things and I still am really struggling to sleep, which is kind of where I was. I had to do a little work on those things, but most of them were already done. Now, there's some other things that I would encourage looking into and maybe getting some testing done, which is something I had to do. I did a Dutch test, which is a very comprehensive, very accurate hormone test that also gives you your cortisol levels, among other things. So I found out that I had estrogen dominant. So my estrogen was a lot higher than my relative to my progesterone. I also had very high cortisol. So when I got that test result back, I was able to see that those are things that I knew I needed to work on to help to improve my sleep. And like I said before, that also impacted my sleep. So that was a little bit of a challenge for me, but I also knew that alongside that, I could implement some of these other things to help as I was working on that. And then in addition to that, I also had thyroid labs ran, and then I also wore a continuous glucose monitor to check my blood sugar. So then I was able to see where was I having spikes and dips that potentially could have been impacting my sleep. And I actually found some really interesting things because I am a clean eater. I eat balanced all the time, but I did find some foods that I was having sometimes late at night were really spiking my blood sugar. And I found that some nights in the middle of the night, I was having actually a very low blood sugar dip, which was waking me up too. So that was very interesting to see. And I just experimented with the different times that I ate, what I was eating, a little bit later in the night. Sometimes I was trying a little bit of nut butter before I went to bed because it has the fiber, it has some carbohydrates, it has some fats. It's not going to spike my blood sugar. So that's something that you could do as well. But those are some things that were really helpful for me to look into. My thyroid, wearing a continuous glucose monitor, so watching my blood sugar, as well as looking into a full hormone panel and looking at my cortisol. So I learned that I had to do stress release work, and I also had to do work on my adrenals and my thyroid. Now that's going to be different for every person, but it kind of gives you an idea of where you can look to see where some of your challenges may be so you know what to work on. Okay, so now I want to talk about what my nighttime routine is that has completely transformed my sleep. Like I said, about a year and a half ago, it was taking me between like 2 and 3 hours to fall asleep every single night. And the worst part of it is, if you've ever dealt with this, you know how excruciatingly painful it is to lay there and try to fall asleep when maybe the person next to you was on their phone scrolling all night, on TV, doing all the things, maybe just ate, and they lay their head down and they're snoring within seconds. It is like the worst thing in the entire world. Not the worst, but it's hard. So that was where I was, and then I was waking up in the middle of the night, and now I probably fall asleep within 20 minutes, and I rarely wake up in the middle of the night, except for when my cute little puppy does wake me up, but that's a whole different thing. And just know, if you do have a puppy or you have a baby or a child, you're waking up in the middle of the night, or something going on with your work schedule, obviously you're going to have to take this and make it work for you. We all are in different phases of life all the time, but we can still work on optimizing and improving the quality of sleep that we do have. And we just want to make sure that we're not using it as a reason to throw our hands up in the air and say that we can't improve our health, because we always can do something. So these are the things that are working for me right now. Number one is I have a solid nighttime routine every single night. It's not 100 steps. It's not complicated. It's not complex. It probably takes me like maybe 10 minutes, but it is truly a way to signal to my body that I am winding down for sleep. So what I typically do is I take my dog out, I put him in the crate, I turn all the lights off, I turn the TV off, then I go upstairs, and then I take my makeup off, and then I have a diffuser next to my bed, so I put sleep essential oils in there. You can get those off Amazon. I will link them in the description box so you can see which ones that I've used. I've also used the ones from doTERRA, so just make sure they're a really high quality essential oil blend and that they are made for sleep. So I put some oils in my essential oil diffuser. I turn the lights really low. Like I said, I have dimmable lights, so I just leave that on low, and then I put my diffuser on, so it starts to kind of get this like very relaxing scent around my room. Then I go into my bathroom, I start to take my makeup off, and then I use these two essential oil rollers. These are actually from Roa Casa, which is an all-natural holistic brand that I absolutely love. I will put a link in the description box for these two. I use the Vagus Synergy Support, and then which works with your vagus nerve and helps your body go into rest and digest and out of fight or flight. You can use this during the day too. And then I use the Calming Deep Sleep Roller. I also use their deep sleep spray that I just spray on my sheets and my pillow. Do you need to use both of these? Probably not. Is it overkill? Probably. It's just kind of part of my routine, and I do think that it's been helpful for me overall. Do you have to get all of these things? Absolutely not. I'm just sharing with you what my night routine is and some things that have really helped me. The other thing that I actually use is, this is from the same brand, Roa Casa. It's all natural magnesium cream. I actually put this on my stomach. It's really good for your digestion, but also for calming. I feel like it has helped my digestion as well, but it gives your body kind of an extra boost, a dose of magnesium that I think does help calm you. So again, this is all just part of my nighttime routine. And then also about an hour before bed, I will take a magnesium supplement. The good thing about magnesium that I've heard is your body will only keep what it needs. So it'll excrete anything that it doesn't. And the magnesium, these are all different types of magnesium. So I will alternate, or you could just pick one. These are both great for calming. I either use this magnesium breakthrough or I use magnesium glycinate. So just kind of see what works for you, do a little bit of research into them, but they're both great for relaxation. And I do feel like they have helped. So that for me is like kind of like my wind down routine. I take off my makeup, I take the supplements, I use the cream, the spray, I get my diffuser going. And then this next piece, I feel like everybody should be doing, because I feel like this has been a game changer for me. I put on a sleep meditation. So I have been kind of experimenting with a few different things, but the one that I use probably 5 or 6 nights a week. It's completely free on YouTube, and it's called Mindful Movement. I'll tag them here too. She has a variety of different sleep meditations. They are amazing. And I feel like it's cool because you pay attention to them, but you don't actually have to pay attention to them that much. And I feel like I know I sleep so much deeper and I fall asleep so much quicker when I'm listening to them. And I know because I've worn various trackers and I can see that the quality of my sleep has increased significantly. The goal is to have more REM sleep, more deep sleep. That is really where your body's restoring and doing all the really beneficial things that your body does during sleep. And I know that it has increased significantly since I've been listening to those meditations, as well as using, these supplements and different things that are part of my nighttime routine. I also recently found the Soak app. I believe it's SOAAK. And I've been experimenting with, I believe it's called dual tone. So you can play their sleep frequency behind a sleep meditation. So I've actually been doubling up and using both of those. The Soak app does have a membership, but I believe they have a free trial for 7 days or something like that. So I had done the free trial and I really liked it. So I actually continued to do the monthly, and I'm kind of feeling it out whether I'm going to keep it or not. But like I said, it's really cool because they have a variety of frequencies, tons. I don't even know how many things you can listen to during the day for stress relief and anxiety relief, but then they also have a sleep one that supposedly they have a lot of studies behind how much it has really, really helped people. The last thing that I'll mention that I have made a really, really intentional effort to do is, I kind of talked about this earlier on, is to really reduce my stress overall. And that's because I am working on this health journey. I'm working on getting my weight and my kind of body fat and muscle back to where I really want it to be. And I know my cortisol has played a huge role in that. So that's a really big reason I've been working on it. And then of course, sleep works on both sides. So for stress, like I talked about before, you have to look at in your life, what do you feel like are the things that are stressing you out the most? But then, where can we make changes with the circumstance? Maybe it's work, maybe it's, a friendship or relationship. If there's easy changes you can make and you're like, no, this actually is not in alignment with who I want to be, how I want to live my life, maybe we want to make changes there circumstantially with the situations, but many times we can't. So I've said this before, the thing we can control, we always have to look at what we can do, and what we can control is the way that we think about the things. Every time we have a thought about a thing, it creates a feeling. Stress is caused by our thoughts about the things and not only just the things themselves. So we have to look at what in our life can we change, can we remove, can we reduce? And the things that we can't, or we are deciding to, because we always have a choice right now, even if it's work, we do get to choose if we go. And even that thought alone is a little bit more empowering than I have to go, I don't have a choice. We get to choose, again, how we think about our work. If we're thinking really stressful thoughts, we want to figure out what those are, and then we want to identify why we're thinking those thoughts. Do we want to continue thinking them? And then we want to change to something that feels just a little bit better to us, or maybe even just something neutral that's not going to keep us in this chronic state of fight or flight, this chronic state of stress and high cortisol every single day. So that's something I've had to be really, really intentional about. I made another video on, I was diagnosed with alopecia areata a year ago, where my hair started falling out of my head and I had a bald spot. And reducing my stress, really my thinking, changing the way that I was kind of processing through situations in my life, I feel like had a huge impact on being able to regrow my hair. So it also has a huge impact on your sleep and your health and your weight and your hormones and all of the other things. So like I said, we want to look at what can we reduce, what can we remove, but the things that we can or we're choosing not to, how do we want to think about them? How do we want to feel about them? Because we do actually get that choice. Then we have to do that work, create that new neural pathway when it comes to those things that we are experiencing in our lives. And one major thing that I had to do this with is my daughter. I've talked about this before. She has some behavioral challenges. She was diagnosed with ODD a couple years ago. It's expected that she may have ADHD as well. And sometimes her behaviors are just a lot to handle. And last year I was not doing really well with the way I was handling how I was thinking about her behaviors and about her. And I had to make a decision. I had to literally just make a decision that, and again, it's simple, but not necessarily easy, that I was not going to let those things stress me out every single day, that I was going to think differently about them, that I was going to handle them differently and really focus on my own emotions, my own actions, and not just hers. And not only has that lowered my stress level, helped me feel better, but it has improved my relationship with my daughter, and her behavior has improved as well, because we're both not in that place of like tense, anger, fight or flight, stress mode. We are more in a place of calm and connection and confidence, which changes everything. So those are the things that I have found really, really helpful for me to improve my sleep over the past year. I just gave you a lot of things to think about and to do. So how do we actually do this? How do we actually put this into practice? Take a look at what areas you're already doing great in, and then take a look at what areas you may need some improvement in. Pick one, pick two, pick three things that you are going to commit to following through with, that you're going to commit to being consistent with, and make a plan for yourself. That is what I did. Every time either something didn't work, or every time I was like still struggling in an area, I'm like, all right, what can I try next? Start as small as you need to. Start with one thing if you need to, or start with 1, 2, 3 things, and make a plan for yourself. How are you actually going to remember to do these things? How are you going to put them into your schedule and make a commitment to actually follow through with them for a certain period of time? I would recommend 1 to 3 months, and then see how you feel. Evaluate what's working, what isn't working. And if you're being really consistent with what you've already added and it's working well, then maybe it's time to add in something else. But that is what I would recommend doing, making a really clear plan for yourself, because we can't evaluate if something's working or not working if we either don't know what we're doing or we're not following it. Like I said, I've gone from it taking me hours to fall asleep to like 20 to 30 minutes, and I'm rarely waking up in the middle of the night anymore. So if you have any questions, or that is something you are struggling with, or you need help with any other area in health or life, I'd be happy to help. Drop a comment with your question and I will do a future video on it. Thanks so much for watching.